Hey, how are you?
Good morning. Good morning.
How's it going?
Pretty good.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, it's another beautiful day in paradise.
First day of
Anytime
spring.
we, anytime we can be together to study a little Torah, it's paradise.
And Rabbi, I am leaving at 10:15.
Oh,
I'm
I'm
going
leaving.
to
Where are you going? Tell me.
I'm going to a bat mitzvah in New York City.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
I'm leaving actually a little before that because I got a bar mitzvah here, and we're going to be having people watching from Australia.
I know. I heard last night.
And probably 10 states in the United States. And so I'm going to be leaving even a little earlier. So there.
Well, my girlfriend's granddaughter is being bat mitzvah, and her mother is the cantor of the shul.
Oh, wonderful.
And
Isn't it? Yeah, go ahead.
I've known them since they were little kids, little children. So
Oh, wonderful.
next best thing to being there, right?
Yeah. Well, soon we'll be able to do these trips and be in each other's physical presence. And as I mentioned, 16th of April, we're going to have
That'll be an interesting situation.
we're going to have to do it correctly. We haven't got all the details yet, but I think we'll be able to have 100 people in the sanctuary spaced out because, it sits almost 300. Where people will wear masks. I think we're going to have reservations. We're going to ask, and we're going to assign seats. And we're going to put up some, just to show that we're very serious about this. We're going to put up some plexiglass shields between, on the pulpits. So we're not breathing, when we're speaking and singing the cantic, we're not spreading anything. So I think it's going to be very safe. And you know what, Marlene, given the age of our congregation, given the fact that we're a pretty middle class, pretty educated congregation, my guess is my guess is 80% of our congregation will have had at least one vaccination, So I think, and those who are not feeling comfortable coming in, they'll stay at home and watch, right?
Yeah,
They're not gonna be able
right.
to. So there you go. Hey, Boker Tov, Shabbat Shalom, Randy.
Shabbat Shalom. Hey, Shabbat Shalom. Hey. So,
Okay,
so
so we're also on live streaming now, so let's get going. I have to leave a little early because I have a bar mitzvah and they want some pictures of moi
good.
for the service. I don't like them to take too many pictures during the service. And Marlene has to leave
Okay.
early as well. She's attending a bat mitzvah this morning in New York City.
Well,
There you go. Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu v'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. So this week's Torah portion is Vayikra. We begin the third of the five books. It's the middle book in the Torah, Vayikra, the book of Leviticus. Now, the book of Leviticus, by its name, you can surmise that it has to do with Levitical law. That is, with the laws regarding the Levites, the priests, and the sacrifices. And sure enough, Vayikra, the book of Leviticus, has a lot to do with the offerings made, sacrifices made in the temple. Now, this is a peculiar, the idea of animal sacrifices is rather peculiar to us in modern days. It's something that that we don't easily relate to. But if we dig a little bit deeper, not just at the surface meaning of the sacrifices, not just the what we call the pshat, that is the the simple meaning, but we dig in deeper to the spiritual, the philosophical aspects of the sacrifices. We go, oh, well, we may not do sacrifices, and we wouldn't even think of doing such things nowadays. That was then, this is now. There is some wisdom to be found when we study them. Now, there are a number of sacrifices, different kinds of offerings made in the temple. The one that I want to speak to you today about is kind of peculiar. It's the chatat, which is the sin offering. The sin offering. There were offerings of well-being and offerings of burnt offerings and this kind of offering and that kind of offering. But this is the sin offering. Now, it wasn't just any kind of sin. It was a sin bishgaga, which means committed unintentionally. Sinning with sinning. Not saying, not some kind of act of rebellion, not some kind of intentional, I'm going to do the wrong thing. It's not yielding to temptation. It is something that I did out of carelessness, something I wasn't paying attention to, some aspect of my life I was inattentive of. And what I did, I violated, I crossed a line, a moral, an ethical, or a spiritual line. Now, if I were an Orthodox Jew, which I'm not, so I'm not as strict as my Orthodox neighbors are. I say that because now I live in Emerald Hills. I got a lot of Orthodox neighbors. I used to be the real frummy guy here in East Hollywood. Now I'm the Apikoros rabbi in Frumville. But be that as it may.
They may call you the town guy.
That's right. So, good morning, good Shabbos, Betty. I answered the phone on Shabbat. I kind of look at who's calling me first. If I said, because sometimes people need to talk to me, I will call my loved ones and dear friends who I might feel are a little bit isolated on Shabbat. To me, I don't think that's a violation. So I use the phone. Now, but if I were Orthodox, and I'm not supposed to, okay? Let's just use this as an example. And as Reform Jews, we will have to we'll have to see how this relates to us. So the phone rings. You're an Orthodox Jew. You pick it, and it's Shabbat, and you pick it up. And you go, oy, gavalt, I forgot. It's Shabbos. Ooh, either I forgot it was Shabbos. I was sort of thinking it was Friday or Sunday. It's a weekend, and I thought, and I realized I didn't intentionally violate Shabbat. And of course, this is in keeping with Orthodox tradition. Or maybe I forgot that it was not allowed to use the telephone on Shabbat. Now, that is the kind of sin which seems pretty minor in comparison to other sins, but that's the kind of sin that the chatat, the sin offering, was supposed to atone for. It was, but that kind of sin, done by accident, done by inattentiveness, is not one it's going to make us feel really guilty. We know that we didn't, this wasn't intentional. This wasn't a rebellion against God. And interestingly enough, for the more intentional sins, like one where somebody does something that it's really a rebellion. And they go out intending to violate Jewish law. There is no offering for that. Isn't that interesting? For the more serious intentional sin, there's no prescribed offering. there's only a prescribed offering for a minor unintentional sin. And that's kind of peculiar. And then we're left scratching our heads. Why is that? You know, when someone does something intentional, when somebody does something that they know is wrong, you know, how do they atone for that? And you know, we this is something we think about on Yom Kippur. There's no sacrifice. There's no offering that you can make to God for that kind of sin. It's more serious. You knew it was wrong. You did it anyway. We see this with Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve are told not to eat from the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and yet they do it anyway. And what is the process? What is the process of making it right? Since it was not just a physical act, it was a mental act as well. It's tshuva. It is feeling remorse. It is vidui. Vidui means confession. You got to own up to it. Hey, I knew it was wrong. I put my hand in the till. I shouldn't have. I knew it was wrong. I was under pressure. I was trying to live up to other people's expectations of my success, and I took something that didn't belong. So I feel remorse, and I own up to it. And then there's a thing called Kabbalat Ha'atid, which means, you know what? I got to make it up. If I have wronged another human being, if I took something that I didn't have a right to take, I have to give it back. Of course, I have to make compensation for it, and I have to do what's called Kabbalat Ha'atid, which means I have to resolve I'm not going to do it again. Now, so that we understand, but isn't that interesting? There's no offering that you make to God for that more serious sin. So we get back to the chatat, that is the sin offering for the unintentional sin. You know, regardless of intention, when we've sinned, when we've transgressed a boundary, you know, we've still sinned, even though we didn't intend to. The word sin in Hebrew is chet, which literally means to miss the mark. Some people think it's an archery term, you know, that we missed the mark, but we've strayed from the proper path. Yet, in a sense, sometimes just living our lives, you know, and in being good people, well-intentioned people, we stray. We do something, we stray from the proper path. We commit an act that, in a sense, disturbs the moral universe. Let me give you an example. I was listening to a lecture by the late Lord Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sacks, the chief rabbi of the British Commonwealth. He uses the following example. Your speedometer is broken, or at least it's incorrect. And you're driving in a 30-mile-an-hour zone, and your speedometer says 30 miles an hour, but you're traveling at 50 miles an hour. You see the little red light behind you, you hear the siren, you pull over, and then you realize what's happened. You explain to the policeman, you know, my speedometer is not working, it's incorrect. Now, the police officer might be sympathetic with you, but you might get a ticket anyway. Hey, you were speeding. You know, I know you didn't intend to, but nonetheless, you know, you were speeding. Sorry, I'm sorry, you get that speedometer fixed, the policeman might say, but here's a ticket. I might write it a little, you know, I might have a range of the fine, so I understand. Maybe I'll make it the lower fine. Could be $250. It could go from 50 to, I'm going to do it for 50, but I got to give you a ticket. Samson Raphael Hirsch, he was a German rabbi in the 1850s. He wrote a lot of his work was done in the 1840s, 1850s. He said, what we're talking about with the chatat, the sin offering, is really a sin of carelessness, not intention, but carelessness. And what this is what the meaning of this sacrifice for the unintentional sin is to make us more mindful. I don't think he used, that's a modern contemporary term, mindful, living mindfully. And we know what we do in life, even if unintentional, what we do in life leaves traces, a life that in which you're careless, inattentive, even if your good will can have consequences. Now, there was a book called The Book of Education. It was a 14th century book, Sefer HaChinuch, it was called. And it said, basically, what the chatat was an educational tool. It wasn't supposed to be overburdened. You don't get the death penalty for a little unintentional sin, but it's a little reminder. It's a little reminder to be mindful. Now, there was a rabbi, a 15th century rabbi in Spain. His name was Isaac Arama. He said he compared the more serious sin, the one done with intention, with mind, the one for which there is no offering. It is a matter of, again, that process of owning up to it, making recompense, making an amends for, and pledging or trying never to do it again. He makes a comparison between that and the unintentional sin. He said, so why does the unintentional sin require a physical sacrifice? That is giving up, an animal, or if you can't afford an animal, it might be something else. Well, the unintentional sin is not done with the mind, it's done with the body. It's done in a physical manner. And therefore it requires a physical sacrifice. A physical sacrifice cannot rectify an intentional sin involving the mind and the soul. It can only rectify a physical unintentional sin, and that's what he talks about. The Rambam, that is Maimonides, he speaks of this kind of sin as being, even if you didn't intend it, it could be something of a blemish on the soul. This whole thing is not about feeling guilty. It is about trying to live a better life. Our actions, again, leave traces on the world. Chatat, giving up something physical, giving up something physical for a material or physical sin, an unintentional sin, is how we rectify it. We gotta, if you do something that's wrong unintentionally, you make up for it by giving to, nowadays we don't do sacrifice, but we would give to tzedakah. We would perform an act of loving kindness of some sort. The prophet Hosea says, speaking in God's name, the prophet Hosea said, quoting God God's word flowing through Hosea. He says, I don't require sacrifices. I require acts of love and kindness. So I want to hear what you have to say. What do you think, Randy?
Well, I'm a little confused in one sense because when we go on Yom Kippur, on the same breath, you say for the sins, whether intentional or unintentional.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm still not crystal clear why we wouldn't give one for an intentional, or why are we still praying for the unintentional when we've already given a sacrifice?
That's a good point. I think what Maimonides, what Rabbi Arama were getting at was, okay, the big things, the intentional ones, you you've really screwed up. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
The company is not doing well, right? The company, and you got people working for you, you're under pressure. You're the chief financial officer, and you fudge the taxes. You don't declare and it's wrong. You know it. You know the law, and zap, you get caught. Okay, that's against the law. Hiding income, and but you knew it. You have to pay. There are consequences to that. It is from a religious. Now, obviously, there are legal consequences, but the spiritual consequences, the religious consequences are: hey, you got to own up to it. You got to pay. The government, the IRS, is going to make sure you're going to pay up, and you're going to pay a penalty. Obviously, hopefully, you don't go to jail, but that could be in the works too. You don't know, depending on how serious it is. And you have to say, you know what? I'm never going to do that again. It's just plain wrong. It's wrong. But this, now the unintentional sin is just, it's just, it comes from just not being conscious. It's the small things. It's not huge things that you're doing. It is those small things. It is the careless life. It is the life that says, that you just say anything that comes into your, and even if it hurts somebody's feelings, or you are impulsive, or you don't really think about how am I living my life? Have I given any thought to the way I'm consuming and whatever I consume, and how it affects the world, the economy, the global warming? How does it affect my neighbor? I'm just not thinking about it.
Well, but now you're interjecting a big, small, but let me give you another example to think about. With the same situation, but one's intentional, unintentional, lying to a family member.
Yes.
So what did you do yesterday, Rabbi? Oh, well, you didn't want, you knew that I wanted to see you, so you said, oh, I wasn't feeling good. I stayed home, I did nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, but you knew that you were feeling fine.
Yeah.
And you lied to me. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, similar situation. What did you do yesterday, Rabbi? I don't know, nothing. I didn't really do anything. And then you realize, oh, I forgot.
Yeah.
So the latter would be more unintentional. The former is an intentional lie. It's not a big deal. For that, though, for forgetting, if you will, you'd have to give a sacrifice. But lying, forget about what the bigger things of family and I mean companies and all that stuff. Just a simple lie to your family member, which couldn't be worse, right? Right? An intentional lie, because I didn't want to hurt their feelings. Just like if I told him, what did you do for Shabbat last night? Nothing. But I really went to my friend's house, but I knew if I told my father I went to my friend's for Shabbat, why didn't you come to me for Shabbat? We'd have all these arguments.
Yeah, life is complicated.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, Randy, you're thinking about it. Right. You're being conscious. You're going, okay, I told a little white lie because I didn't want to hurt my friend's feelings. Right. But you know that's a tricky thing. You know that's it because it's a lie. And I'm not saying you should never lie. Right. I'm not saying that. But the thing is, you're struggling with it. You go, I told a white lie, and sometimes it's the correct thing to do. Right. Sometimes it is. But are you aware of it? Some people, are you weighing the consequences? I got my friend's feelings. I have an obligation in another place. My friend is, I know I don't mean to be letting him or her down. I know they'd like to spend Shabbat with me, but I made this other commitment. They're a little touchy about it. But you're thinking about it. The thing that I like about it is you're going, ooh, this is, it is when you can tell a lie, even a small white lie, and just.
But because I'm thinking about it, why shouldn't I give you some charity tomorrow to make up for that?
Well, maybe the remedy is you put a few coins in the pushka. Right. You say, you know what? I have to make it up to my friend. Or maybe you're a little more attentive to your friend the next week, right?
Right.
You have to get, to make it right, you need to give up something, a little of your time, a little of your cash, a little something. You have to make up, physically, you have to make it up. That's the idea of the chatat. You've sinned, it's sort of in a material way, not intentionally, but you have to make it up in a physical way. And that can be, you figure that out. That can be manifested in a variety of ways. Yeah, Marlene.
Our Catholic friends solved it right away. They commit a sin, large, small, on purpose, not purpose. You go to confession, say a few prayers, and you're free to go. I think if you have to think about doing something wrong, you really have to reevaluate your whole system, your whole way of thinking.
Yeah.
Committing a wrong and knowing a wrong is worse. Doing something wrong and knowing it is worse than doing it unintentionally. And I think that Leviticus is outdated. And yet, things haven't changed much, have they?
You're right. That's very wise. Very wise.
On my way to New York, I'm going to think it over and I'll bring back a report.
But here, the thing that comes to my mind, I just thought of this, as we've been talking about mindfulness. I teach mindfulness. It's the new thing, but I think there's a lot of eternal value to it. I think even going back, I don't know, was it Socrates or Plato who said an unexamined life is not worth living, right? And it's not that we should be always second guessing ourselves and inspect, but I think a religious, spiritual person without a deep sense of shame, it's not about shame and feeling guilty. It's just going, everything I do, those small things I do, the words I choose, they all leave traces in the world. Okay, it's those. We all know that the intentional things are bad. We know that. Yom Kippur, we're reminded of that. The sin offering for the bishkaga, that is the accidental, the unintentional sin, it's educational. It's to say, pay attention to those little things. You know, I'm shopping. I'm at Publix. Do I buy this product or do I buy that product? What is I don't, what goes in, now, we have a brilliant young man giving a Devar Torah today, Tyler Green. I've worked with, he's such a smart kid. Now, it's not this week's Torah portion, it's Shmini, but the kid was working so hard to do Shmini. And I said, I didn't have the heart to make him start all over again and do this week's Torah portion. I said, hey, just do this and it's about the kashrut laws. And he talks about the effect of your choices. He talked about he'll be talking about something that I hadn't even given any thought to in kashrut in a broader sense, in a more mindful sense. And that is about packaging. I didn't think about this, right? Part of your choices. If kashrut is about conscious, ethical, moral consumption, that's what it's about. And I think broadly, philosophically speaking, that's what it's about. You know, Marilyn and I, just two people, we generate 2 garbage cans full of packaging every week. It's ridiculous. Where does it all go? We don't know. It goes to Mount Trashmore up there and, somewhere between here and Orlando. And it goes out to sea. It's ruining the environment. And so if I go to Whole Foods, I can take a little Tupperware and I can fill up if I want some lentils, I can fill that up, right? I'm not quite there yet, but I know that's really would be a good, it's a little thing. It's a little thing, but do I buy the thing that's all got, the thing is this big, but it comes in a package this big, because it's going to make me more inclined to buy it. Am I conscious of it? Because I am committing a sin it's an unintentional sin if I am contributing to global warming or to the deprivation of the environment, and so I think that's what this week's, that's just one little thing in this week's Torah portion, but I think it's to make us mindful living. It's not about making you feel guilty or ashamed. It's just saying, what are those small little things that I can do that makes the world a better place, that makes me a better person? What are those small little indiscretions, or those small little thoughtless things and we all do them. We are all, we can all, and again, it's not to feel, oh, I'm a jerk. No, it's not that. It's just like, it's the one little thing that I can work on. So I'm going to have to leave you now. I have a bar mitzvah at 10:30. We have people from Queensland, Australia watching. We have people, I think, in 10 different states watching. And this boy is he's a sweetheart. Tyler is such a bright boy. And so they're going to want to take a picture or two. And I like them to take the pictures before the service if possible. So I gotta run, but I love you all. And and I hope this makes you think a little bit. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rabbi, for your time.
And thank you for caring enough to study a little Torah with me.
All right.
Good Shabbos, everyone.
Bye, Betty. Bye, Ren.
And travel safely to New York on the internet.
Just one little finger will do it. I hope I can stream in.
Well, be careful, that you don't end up in Detroit or Portland.
I'll wear a mask. Yeah.